Hello, my friends. Welcome to the fourth and final part of my interview with Gabriel Zamora. No catchy intros this time because this part gets very, very serious. In the first two parts, Gabriel talked lightheartedly about his personal experiences being a part of the internet dramas that we call Dramageddon 1 and Dramageddon 2. Last time, Gabriel talked openly and emotionally about his former best friend, Nikita Dragon, and how that relationship fell apart. What we hadn't talked about was how he was currently feeling about Jeffree Star and James Charles, both of whom he used to be publicly friends with. While talking about James, Gabriel began talking about how he felt personally connected, not to James, but to James's victims. In that, I want to provide a trigger warning that this video will talk about abuse, manipulation, and assault. Please take care of you as your first priority. With that, here is the final part of my interview with Gabriel Zamora. So I did want to talk about a couple more things that happened because we've talked about a couple of people in so far that I know that you had fallings out with, I guess, or separated yourself from: Jeffree Star and James Charles.
So I've never technically had beef with Jeffree ever since then. Does he have a questionable dark past? Absolutely. The way he handled the bi sister situation, I don't commend. I think it was definitely not a good situation. I think it was a combination of he thought his spot was being taken by James, realistically, because Jeffree was always the big dog. He was the biggest one. And then James was coming through, younger and liked by everyone. And not just in the beauty space. He was popping everywhere else in all these other spaces within YouTube. Just like maybe you were threatened by that. I don't know what it was, Jeffree, but I don't think you handled it the best. I think it definitely blew up in his face. And I hope he learned from it. Absolutely. I've seen a few clips here and there, especially on like TikTok, of like how he holds other influencers accountable, even as of recently where he was talking about Michaela. And like, he's always been a very blunt, just almost polarizing person. If I can be aware and acknowledge that I had involvement in the whole Dramageddon 2, not even as big as you, Jeffree, I had involvement and I can acknowledge it. You have to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
You were heavily involved. And to not acknowledge it, to me, just gives crazy. You were involved. Maybe you don't like your involvement. Maybe you regret your involvement. Maybe you regret being on Tati's side. I don't care what it is. Don't act like you weren't involved, though.
Remember that old lady, Tati? Remember her? She uploaded a second video, which is now about to, be 5 years old. I'm gonna speak for her stupid ass, Tati. You dumb cunt. I'm gonna say. Let me say one thing for you before you die. You fucking old witch.
I just wish more people would come on Canceled.
She is one of the darkest people.
Let's pause here for a second. I do recognize that this is a bit of a side quest, but this part of Jeffree's appearance on Tana Mojo's Canceled podcast really irritated me, since Jeffree has admitted to hanging out with absolutely horrible people in the past, including a man named Davi Vanity. There's a lot of evidence to suggest, including information directly from Jeffree, that Davi had multiple inappropriate relationships with underage girls on his tour bus. Also, coming from Jeffree, who has an extremely dark past, I have a hard time believing that Tati Westbrook is one of the darkest people he's met. To be fair, that has absolutely nothing to do with the interview with Gabriel Zamora, but since we're here watching clips from his interview on Tana's podcast, I thought I'd throw that in here. So let us continue.
One of the darkest people I've ever met.
Really? I don't think I've ever met her.
She got me with the guise of being this
a sweet older woman,
middle-aged. Yeah. But yeah, she is.
No, I'm only being funny because people will say I'm age shaming. We're really close in age.
No, but it was
we're not. I'm not age shaming.
Aesthetic, though.
No, her aesthetic was the mother of YouTube, and why would she be a part of any drama and da-da-da? Because she found out a lot of stuff about him. She knew he was evil, and she wanted to remove him. But the fact that anyone believed that we were bored to try to ruin someone's life on the side when we're living our dreams, our financial dreams, the viewers were so crazy. It was the biggest, most exciting thing me and him have ever done career-wise, and the most successful. I couldn't believe I woke up and people believed I'm the villain for the 100th time. I couldn't believe it.
Here is Jeffree threatening to expose James Charles as a liar.
There were so many lies in his video. A lot of people are, what do we believe? You're gonna know what to believe when I really show you the facts, okay? There's screenshots. There's a lot of things that were not presented correctly. I didn't want to have to do this, but I will have to respond to this, and I will show you guys things that I'm sure he never wanted to come to light, but here we are.
Instead of exposing James as a liar, Jeffree posted the video called Never Doing This Again and said he wasn't going to show any proof.
We just launched the biggest makeup collection in makeup history. The most palettes sold in 1 hour, in one day, me and Shane Dawson. What? Two dudes? Like, that's so crazy and beautiful. And the documentary, the second one, right? Both of them were such massive hits. And I couldn't believe we're in the middle of a pandemic and there's all these crazy things happening with our culture and the planet and Earth and the presidency, and everyone's angry. They wanted me and Shane to be the villain.
Pausing again to say that this didn't happen. For real. No one wanted them to be villains. They were the villains. Shane's disgusting past came back to haunt him, and an article was published that accused Jeffree of paying hush money to cover up sexual assault allegations.
I took a few weeks off and was like, wait, what did I do?
Yeah.
I'm not a bad person. I didn't try to take down James Charles. And I wasn't a part of any of it. That's the problem.
But you got dragged.
You were
So
shrapnel.
so now we're 5 years later. You're telling me that me and Shane called her on the phone and coerced her into me. This has to be a joke. That's what I'm like. How could anyone believe that was real?
As James Charles was losing millions of followers and Tati was gaining millions of followers, Tati seemed distraught and Jeffree was celebrating Tati's quote-unquote win.
I just logged onto the internet for the first time today and I'm like, oh my God, huge congratulations to Miss Tati Westbrook for hitting 8 million subscribers on YouTube. This is just the beginning for you, baby. I miss you, I love you, and I cannot wait to see you when I'm back from Michigan. So congrats. Mwah! I love you. Life has a really funny way of doing things sometimes, you guys, doesn't it? The phoenix always rises out of the ashes.
Long story short, way too late, I think that history backs up what Gabriel is saying here. So now, back to Gabriel talking about Jeffree being dropped by Morphe.
I also believe that if your past situations have led for this brand to drop you, that's completely up to Morphe. If Morphe wants to drop you because they believe that a lot of their influencers are like, we don't want to work with you, so be it. It's cool. It sucks for you, Jeffree. That was your biggest retailer. You moved a lot of units with Morphe. Now they don't want to work with you. Okay. You have to, not unfortunately, because there's no unfortunately, you have to stand by your past. And if there's still consequences from it, so be it. So be it. Where it's not, oh, he apologized. He made a YouTube video apologizing. Okay. And yet those words over time still hurt people. So it is what it is. If your past has led you to not be able to work with certain companies and brands in the future for the rest of your life, so be it. It's not up to me. It's not up to me. If brands and people like that are like, no, it's just, we don't want to. It's like, okay.
Morphe still owes me money.
Me too. Well, let me stop.
The bankruptcy, I'll never get my 1.6 million. Yeah, that's how much they owed me before they filed.
How does that work? You're doing a collab with Morphe. They owe you this money.
Obviously, I got paid several times, and then the next payment was the 1.8. They decided, well, the new CEO fell into cancel culture, right?
Lisa.
That was that was way past that. Yeah. And whatever. And at the end of the day, they owe me and a bunch of people money still. We're never gonna get it. They filed for bankruptcy and
I can't believe that's allowed, but I guess there's nothing you can really do about it.
But then it's like they're just moving forward, paying other creators to do stuff. That's
how does that make sense?
I don't know.
There's no like back pay situation.
We just had
Did you get canceled? Is that
no?
Well, you were saying they fell into cancel culture.
Meaning like they decided not to work with me over the second video.
Oh.
When the second video came out and I got canceled and Morphe didn't want to work with me, what did I do wrong? Like to the core of it, what did people think that I did wrong? They just thought I was a shitty person.
Yes, that he was a shitty person. Jeffree's leaving a lot out here. Yes, I do believe that breaking my silence was the final straw that made Morphe drop him, but there was so much more than that. Of course, people hadn't forgot about his racism. The conflicts with Jackie Aina and Makeup Shayla happening around the same time as Dramageddon. In early 2020, a few months before breaking my silence, Jeffree's friendship with Davi Vanity was exposed. Jeffree even went on Chris Hansen's podcast trying to explain that one away. His former friend Tab had come out with a video talking about what a crap human being he was, and that was the end of his friendship with Trisha Paytas. And then in June of 2020, screenshots of a website called Lipstick Nazi were found where Jeffree was shown with self-harm on his arms. And then Blair White came out with a video called Jeffree Star, You're a Monster. Personally, I believe the final nail in the coffin was breaking my silence, but to blame it all on that, I think the new leadership over at Morphe had just had enough and dropped him in July of 2020. So again, long story short, way too late, I'm with Gabriel on this one too. And selfishly, I am using this as an opportunity to talk about Jeffree's nonsense on Tana's podcast a couple of weeks ago. But now I'm done with the me piece. Let's get back to Gabriel. So when was the last time have you talked to Jeffree at all? Like in recent years or?
No. The only thing is he unblocked me. He had blocked me after I can't remember exactly when he blocked me, but I remember I had unfollowed him and I didn't see any of his stuff. And I think he had blocked me maybe a couple months after the whole Morphe situation. It almost like it upsets me that he could have been such an amazing like figure in the beauty space had he just held himself more accountable and understood that it's not all about you. This isn't the rap world where there's a number one spot of who's the king and who's the queen. That's not how the beauty space works.
Right.
But I think for a while it was like that. It was like, who's the top dog? Jeffree's the top dog. Nikki Tutorials is the top dog. This person is James is the top dog.
Right.
Jacqueline Hill's the top dog. Now it's like it's Michaela. The top dog is always moving, but they never like fall off. Everybody's always popping. It's just like, why can't we all just like get along? Why can't you just be like, damn, I went through a lot of shit. I learned a lot of shit. Let me help people. Like, if you felt scorned, absolutely. If you felt used by people, absolutely. Cut them off. But like, just like you have so much money, power, knowledge, and like to be able to create such an amazing space, and you chose to like go about it so like drama like and petty like, and I'm like, damn girl, like I wanted more for you than you wanted for yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I do think that there are people that will never get past the racism stuff. I mean, and
they don't have
that's
to.
kind of where I sit on it. Is I will never. I don't think I will ever. And he said some pretty some awful things about non-binary people recently that he doesn't. And I have a non-binary child, so I take that super personal. So
Yeah.
he is an absolute no, 0 out of 10 for me. But I
himself as almost a non-binary coming across person, presenting person. I'm like, how are you going to say there's only two genders, men and women?
Right.
Like, what? Come on. And I think he's just doing it to be polarizing sometimes. Because I'm like, realistically, you, Jeffree, come on.
I do want to address James Charles as well, because that's a whole thing, because he really went dark side. You know, after you helped him with, you know, crafting his video and all of that. And how did you continue to be friends with him after that? Like, how did your relationship evolve after that to like now?
Yeah, I did after Bye Sister. I definitely was. I was like, okay, like, you know, it was just the waiter in Seattle. That was the only situation.
Right.
You know? And that's all we talked about during Bye Sister, just the waiter in Seattle. There was no other characters, other people that he had been speaking to. The part that upset me was I have pride. And I was like, wait, I just went up to bat for you. And I said, you are not this person that they're making you out to be, for a year later, you to do what they're saying you did. You're doing what Tati said you did. You're doing what Jeffree said you did. Why You idiot. Would you not pay attention or do your due diligence? You have the resources of money. You have the resources of a team. I don't understand why you're having conversations with people and not checking their age. And once you find out that they're underage, you stop all conversation. That should have been from the very beginning. Why is it a couple days later? Why is it a couple messages later? That's weird. That's weird. When I had these conversations with him, I was like, why don't you just show proof? And he's like, well, some of the conversations were on Snapchat. And once I found out their age, I would block them. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, look me in my eyes. Were you doing anything inappropriate with anybody underage? He's like, no. Once I found out their age, I ceased all communication, blocked everything. This is all happening around the age. And I'm not justifying anything.
Right.
This is all happening around him being 19, 20. And I'm not one to justify anything, but I have seen 16, 7-year-olds who look 19, 20. It's not to say that it's justified to go and approach them. You still have to ask somebody their age, especially when they're young, especially when they're around the age of 19. If somebody looks like they're around the age of 19, 20, just ask. Ask them what their age is.
Well, and
Especially
there's
when you're famous.
definitely a couple of them that look younger.
Yes.
They definitely look at, and it's, I feel like the younger you are, the easier it is to identify somebody that's younger's age.
Yes.
You know, because you're right around there.
Yeah.
You know, that's just kind of my perspective on it. Is I feel like it'd be easier for James Charles to identify a 14-year-old than it would even be for me to identify a 14-year-old because he was closer to that age.
Yeah.
And some of these boys really did look pretty young. So I don't know, even if they did lie about their age,
Yeah.
to send the, naked photos of yourself to someone where it's even a question.
Yeah. Because I mean, he uploaded a YouTube video acknowledging that he did it. So
Yes,
it's not
absolutely.
like we're saying he did anything illegal by our own account. He said it. He voiced
He
it.
said it.
He said, I had inappropriate conversations. And it's like, first of all, that's crazy to upload. And that's crazy to say. And like, it's just what? What? Like, oh my God. Not saying he shouldn't have, or not saying like, oh, you should have gotten out. No. It's just, wow, you really acknowledge that you did this. Ooh, that's weird. Because I, at the time, my sister's young. And I'm like, if my 16-year-old sister told me she's talking to a 20-year-old, I'm going to have an issue. I'm going to have an issue. I'll be like, why aren't you checking her age? Like, what's wrong with you? And James, I told him this. I'm like, you're famous. A 16-year-old, when you ask them, hey, are you 18? They're going to lie to you and tell you that they are. It is your job as the adult to do your due diligence and check that ID, especially as a celebrity with money. Because we've seen similar cases of even celebrities getting baited because there's an opportunity for financial gain in that situation. It doesn't make it right. I'm just saying these things have happened in the past. Learn from history so that you don't repeat mistakes. So why aren't you making sure, like you're having people sign NDAs, but you're not checking their IDs? Like, and an NDA doesn't protect you from a crime, but these NDAs are so that they're not going around speaking of like, oh yeah, I went to James's house and we did this, that with consenting adults. Absolutely. I understand the NDA aspect when it comes to celebrities. It's like, don't talk about my penis on the internet. Don't talk about the things we did on the internet. Don't talk about my home, things that I get that aspect, but you can't even check their IDs. And I was so like almost upset because I'm like, I just went up to bat for you. Now I look stupid a year later. I look stupid. And I don't defend anything you did after that. I only defended you during Bye Sister and that waiter. But to some people, it looks like I'm defending you in general. And I hated that. I was just like, oh, girl, like, why'd you have to do that? Like, you're so stupid. And I had to, like, definitely take a few steps back for him to understand, like, yo, you fucked up and you embarrassed me. So I'm going to need you to, like, really, you wanted to play in shit, stand in it. Stand in it and be the only one in it. And notice how lonely it is. Notice how lonely it is when you fuck up and nobody wants to be around you. Both Jeffree and James can attest to that. When they do things, nobody wants to be around them. It's even scarier because like there's other players within the space that do bad things, but it's not public. Like there's people who do like even worse than what Jeffree and James have done behind the scenes, and they're so like adored and revered. And I'm like,
Who?
no, it's
I had to try.
I hope it comes out one day. Like it's literally like it's what Tati said. Like some of these people use their fame, money, and power to get what they want. Like they
Yeah.
use money of like, here's the money, and I'm famous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. And it's like, will it ever come out? I don't know. Am I a victim of it? No. So that's why it's like, I don't want to out a victim
Right.
in any capacity. It's like, who am I to tell their story if they themselves don't want to say it? And I've talked to these people, people who've been victimized by like some of these background players. And
And
they,
just to be clear, you're not talking about James Charles right now.
yeah,
You're talking about a
or
different
Jeffree.
situation.
Yes.
Or, right.
James or Jeffree. That's what's crazy. It's like, there's other people who do these things just behind the scenes. Like the whole Diddy situation that came up. It's like,
Right.
this was going on for how long?
Decades.
Horrible. And there's
Yeah.
people behind the scenes who do this, that use that. And I've talked to like these people that have like, oh, like that is kind of weird that they were so much bigger than me and they were trying to become my best friend. I'm really young. And then they're offering me money to do certain things, knowing that I really need the money and it's coming from this big person who I respect so much. And then when they look back on it, they're like, that was predatory. That was fucked up. And they still move within the space. Like I myself am, and it took a long time because I hate considering myself a victim in any capacity. And I always thought of this situation of like, I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim. It just happened. And it is what it is. I took the L on the chin. But there was a person who was very physically and verbally inappropriate with me. And this is a person that was a big, like a key player with like the corporate of it. And I was like, oh my God. Like there's a person who like would hold it over my head that like, I got you here. I can take you out. And I'm thinking like, and all my friends are like, Gabriel, you have the best situation. You get to just upload content. You get to be an influencer. Like you have it good. And I'm just like, they didn't know. I'd never told anybody for the longest. I like, it took a while because I was like, I'm not a victim. It happened. It happens to women. And I'm a man and I should just take it easier because I was able to move on from it. This person disparaged my name. It was like a whole thing. Like I was like like I was lashing out on people in the corporate office stuff where I would lash out on them because like he was like this big player and he was like being inappropriate, like the lower of my back. And I was just like, okay, then it started to be my butt. It started to be things. It'd be like, oh, I accidentally brushed your crotch while I was walking by in this like packed space. And I'm like, what? Like, that's not appropriate. And then words, it would be like, Gabriel, I think it's so cool that you're like in beauty. I'm so supportive. I love gay people. I'm a straight man, but I love gay people. And I'm like, okay. It's like, no, I really do. Let me massage your shoulders. Let me do this. And I'm like, okay. But I would get favoritism. So it's like, wait, this is all weird. And creators would be really weirded out because they're like, why does Gabriel get everything he wants? If Gabriel wants something, he gets it. And these girls are like, we're girls. We're like in the beauty space. Like it's more of a female driven space. Like, why is this guy getting stuff? And I would bump heads with them because it's like, how do I tell y'all that I'm being like inappropriately touched? And that's why I'm getting these things. But I can't say that because it ruins everything. It takes the career away. I'm now known as, it just paints that letter on me that I'm the victim, that I'm a victim. You know, it's like now I'm going to have to go up against this big company. Even on my last day that I was there, I was finally fed up with this man. And I sent a long ass email because he played in my face. Like he did something really shady. He like staked me on my last day in my contract. And I was like, what? I sent a lengthy email. I included the CEO and I included HR. And I said, this man has been inappropriate with me, both physically and verbally. He's very inappropriate and weird. And they did absolutely nothing. So to this day, it's like, I'm grateful for the opportunity, but I'm also like, I have this animosity towards them because I'm like, I get it. I said it at the very end of my contract. I had one day. It was my last day of my contract. But it's the fact that I said, this man is inappropriate. And y'all did absolutely nothing with that. That man is no longer with the company, which I'm grateful for. But I had to take the brunt of it. And for the longest, like, I had to understand why I hated being an influencer for a while. Because it was like, come on, perform. I felt like I was on stage and this man was fondling me behind and nobody could see. So it's like, and he'd be like, you need to upload more, you need to do this, you need to do that. And it was coming from like the perpetrator. So in the back of my head, I would always be like, Gabriel, you need to upload more. And I would hear his voice. And that's why like you see so many like breaks of Gabriel on social media where it's like damn, Gabriel hasn't uploaded over a year. And it's like, sometimes it's like triggering. And it's like, Gabriel, it's such an easy job. It's such an easy job. You get to like put on makeup and talk about skincare and do all these things. And it's like, I wish I could just upload every single day. Like, Gabriel, it's not hard, but it's like, I'm within the last like year, all of 2024, I definitely like, because I try to heal from it in like 2023. I went to therapy towards the end of it and I've been healing from it. And sometimes like I get the creative like spirit of like, okay, let me like upload. Like I feel creative. Like I want to do this. And then I like hear it in the back of my head where it's like, Gabriel, why aren't you uploading? Like we missed you. We missed you. And it's like, I can't tell y'all what happened because it's like for the longest, I was like, I'd rather be known as like, Gabriel's so problematic. Gabriel's such a bitch. Not Gabriel was being touched by this man. And that's like, it's such a jarring thing because I've never talked about it publicly. I've never talked about this publicly and only like a few friends know. So I get holding people accountable from the victim perspective because I'm like, if you want to fight and hold this person accountable, do it. Do it because I wish I would have fought more. The back in my like moment. Because I'm like, damn, I could have voiced it, but at the time it's like when I said earlier on, they get you when you're small, right? They get you as a smaller influencer because even other influencers would bump heads with the company because it's like, y'all make us do all these things that you know we shouldn't be doing. And like it was just extra work. So we would always bump heads. Like the contracts were like, that's a lot of work. Like we don't have to be doing certain things. But then I was also really small. Like I didn't have a lawyer. I didn't have an accountant. I had friends who like could potentially help me, but it's like what I know now, I could have sued. I could have had a lawyer involved in the situation. I could have gone to HR. I could have like really protected myself, but I didn't know how to. So I just had to be like, do I defend myself and potentially like know that these type of legal proceedings take a really long time and like your money's going to be different, your opportunities are going to be different, your life is going to be different. It's going to be like a few years of you having to deal with this. Or do you just say, fuck it, you write it out, you take it on the chin, and once you leave all that shit behind. And you say, no, I don't want to resign, I don't want to work with y'all, like I don't want to be in this space anymore. And you just deal with it. And like, shout out to all the people who took that route because I know that shit probably like became an infected wound that like damaged y'all. Because to not see like repercussions to like your abuser and see them just be like moving about so like effortlessly, it's so jarring. It's so jarring. So it's like there's so many people behind the scenes, even in the beauty space, it sounds fucked, that I can only imagine there's so many other spaces where there's real predators really preying on smaller influencers, younger influencers, people who are just naive, people who just don't believe that they're going to be the victim one day until they literally are. And it's like, damn, it's, you just have to like learn to grow from it. And because if you stay in it too long, it's like, it really damages you and it damages your energy. It damages your relationships with your friends, with your loved ones, me with my fans. Like it really just was like, damn, I tell y'all everything. I wish I could tell y'all this, but then it's like, are y'all gonna go and try to like find him and like make a bigger spectacle? And I was just like, no, I could just take it on the chin. I could just take it on the chin because he was smart. He never did things in front of a camera. He never did it in text messages. He did it in very like packed areas. He did it. And I remember one time I was like really going through it because he was being really like really weird. And I was like lashing out and I didn't know. I didn't know what was going on with me. I was like, I'm so negative and I should be so grateful. Look at this opportunity. Like I'm making so much money as a small influencer. And I remember I threw a fit because at the time I was like, yo, like I just wanted to like, I just wanted somebody to be like, are you okay? Why are you being like this, Gabriel? I would throw a fit about this, throw a fit about that. Like, it's just, you Gabriel, you were so sweet in the beginning. Why are you so like mean now? Went to my room and he knocked on my door and he came in berated me, told me all these things. Was there cameras there? Absolutely not. Did I have a recording ready? Absolutely not. I didn't even know he was at my door. And I'm not just going to go to my phone and start recording these things. It's like, I don't know what to do in these situations. Berated me, told me, you need to start acting better. You need to be grateful for the opportunity that I gave you, because I could take this all away. I could take all of this away and I could bury you. And I have all these relationships with all these brands and nobody will work with you. And you won't even make a money as an influencer, let alone as a brand like person. Because I always thought like, if I ruin my influencer career, I can just like work at a brand. I did it before. I can just go behind the scenes and be like, this is too much, and like I can work at a brand. And he's like, I'll ruin everything. I'll ruin your entire name in the beauty space. And he only did that because at the time the CEO was he wanted to come talk to me. So he came to talk to me before he did. So the CEO comes in and I'm like crying and he's like, what's wrong? And I was like, nothing. And he's like, no, like, what's wrong? Like, I've been hearing that you've been like a little rambunctious. Like, it seems like you're going through stuff. Like, what's going on? And I was like, nothing. He's like, what do you need? Do you need an assistant? Da da da. And he's like, I was like, no, it's okay. I'll be better. I'll like better. Like, I'm gonna be better. Because it's like they were friends. I didn't know if he was gonna have my back as the CEO. They were friends, and I had heard things about him, and I'm like, I don't know if that's true. But then it's like birds of a feather. What if you're just gonna like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do something about it, and then y'all team up on me, and y'all get rid of me. I don't have a lawyer. I don't have parents with money or understanding of legal, financial, like all that stuff. My parents have a middle school education from Mexico. I don't have anybody to protect me. So I have to be like realistic of the situation where it's like, I just have to take it. In that moment, I just had to take it and I just had to be like, okay, it's going to get better one day. Like it's going to get better one day and you're going to blow up from this and you're just going to look at this as like a thing from your past and you're going to hopefully remember this era of being grateful of like, hey, y'all helped me become this like big influencer and I really appreciate it. There's so many people that didn't do anything to me. The brand in and of itself didn't do anything to me. It was just certain people within the company that did stuff to me or just didn't care. So I was like, but it's still like, I hear that word and I'm like, ooh. And I would hear stuff about him, but it was from girls that he wasn't inappropriate with. He was just like, he would sound like little pipe dreams. He'd be like, yeah, I got your back, I got your back, I got your back. But he never did anything to them. So I was just like, so confused. And like, it had never happened to me. And like, I feel very fortunate that it never happened to me as a child, but it happened to me as an adult. And it was so jarring because I was like, wait, I'm such a bad bitch that like, I should be able to stand up to myself and like push his hand and do all these things. But it's like, this person is like dangling your career and any potential of it in front of you. And you just have to be quiet.
It's that power imbalance.
Yeah. So it's like when I voice these things to people, it's because I have an understanding of it to a certain capacity. There's influencers who do these things. There's people within corporate, like there's so many people that are still like up and they move within these spaces and nobody ever knows. And it's like, damn. So it's like, yes, hold Jeffree accountable, hold James accountable, absolutely. But I think it's like, it's not to me like that I'm like diminishing or not taking it as seriously. It's just that I know far worse demons within this space that I wish I could just tell y'all who they are. I wish I could name them. But it's like, that's going to be my identity. That's going to be my fight for the next several years. And it's like, do I want to take that on or do I just say like, when it's finally outed, do I just add I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Even to this day, if it was ever to be outed, do I say like, oh yeah, I was a victim of that too? I don't know.
You had mentioned earlier that you were in therapy. Have you were you able to work through some of this with your therapist to try to help you to come to a good place with it? Or
I think just even the one that took the longest, the process that took the longest that I'm appreciative for is just the understanding of the title of being a victim and not having such a negative connotation behind it of saying that like you weren't able to defend yourself, you weren't able to protect yourself. It's like, me as a man, even though I'm a gay man, it's like I've always protected myself. I've always had that. I've been able to protect my family, you know? So for the longest, I thought it's like, no, if you're a victim, it means you're weak. It means like you were vulnerable. It almost means like you were just an easy target. Not saying that you were asking for it, but it's like you made yourself susceptible to it. And that took a while because it's like it's not a bad thing to be a victim. And it doesn't make your entire identity. It's just something that happened to you. And I can start the change within myself of the negative connotation to victimhood by saying it's not always a bad thing. Yes, it happened to me, but it's also about the way that I then move after that. Do I remain the victim? Like, even understanding that, like, take your time to heal. And you don't have, like, it doesn't have to be healed in a month, in like a year or two, where it's like, no, I have to get over it. I have to get over it. I can't just continue to be a victim for this long. I always thought, like, it's like, what if you stay in it? Like, oh my God, like, why would you be so dumb to stay in victimhood? And it was like, oh my God, I had never processed that. Like, people are going to take their time. It's like, Gabriel, you didn't even want to address it. It took years for you to even understand it. So it's okay, like, just understanding the word victim and like redefining it for myself, and like being able to like not be so ashamed of that. I hope in the future one day I can like be strong enough to just lend my voice and my light to organizations, and it not be like, oh, he's only talking about it because it happened to him. It's like, it did happen to me, and I do want to talk about it. I hope I get to that day where it's like, because I have such a bad attitude with everything else, but this is still something so like fresh and vulnerable that it's like it's still healing to this day. Like, I know I've been processing it since like last year and all through this year. I just hope that one day I could be like, hey, I'm a victim of this. I'm a victim of like somebody who took advantage of me and I didn't know what to do. And I now know, and I hope that like it never happens, because like in the same way, like I would like to be that for like my siblings. I think, I think that's just the part that like scared me the most, is that like they just see me as like the strong big brother. It's like I know they would never look at me in any type of way, but it's like, hey, I'm gonna teach you these things so that you don't have to go through it because I did. And I think that's the hard part. It's like you can teach your your child, your sibling, your loved ones about scary things, but it's even sometimes a little scary for yourself to tell them, be like, because it happened to me. And I want to get to that point where it's like I'm not ashamed of that. I don't feel any guilt towards it. I just like I'm healed from it, and I can like properly teach people what I've learned, or just be able to like be like, hey, I'm a big dog and it happened to me. I'm a bad bitch and I talk my shit, and like I really don't let people do things to me, especially like recently I've been like far more vocal about like, nah, I'm not gonna settle. I'm not gonna settle for like the bare minimum of how people treat me. Like I want to be treated with respect. And I think that even through therapy I've learned that, to where it's like, no, you can stand up for yourself. I think for the longest, like I wasn't standing up for myself. I think that that's why my truth was so like scary for me, because it's like I haven't even been able to stand up for myself behind the scenes. So it's like, how is this even gonna go? Like, that's why I was scared uploading it, because it's like nobody knew anything else. And it's like, what if they don't believe me? And this is something so like petty with friends. If they don't believe this, they're definitely not gonna believe anything. It's something more serious. And like, at least with this, there's proof on the internet. With this, I have no proof. I don't have videos. I don't have anything. Like, he was smart about it. He made sure it wasn't in text messages. He made sure it wasn't in phone calls. He made sure it was always in person, where he was inappropriate. And I was just like, okay, like, how do I prove it? It's my word against his. And he's part of a multi-million-dollar company. And I'm just Gabriel. Like, I'm just Gabriel.
I'm just so sorry. You've been dealing with this for so many years. You've been haunted by this for so many years, and just having it held in, and to have people not know this side of you, to have this public persona and people not know this about something horrible that happened to you and how that's affected you. It's has to have been a big weight on your shoulders. And then to see, other things happening behind the scenes that you saw that reminded you of things that happened to you, and things happening publicly. Like what brought this conversation on was talking about James and how he victimized people. And to see that happen, that had to have been so hard for you.
Mhm.
And I can,
That's why I definitely took distance from James, because I was like, I I'm not saying I'm not friends with him. I definitely have a level of like endearment towards him because I knew him since he was 16, this obnoxious 16-year-old, like entering the beauty space as I was. Um, it's just that I don't feel like he handled the situations with the victims properly. I don't think he did his due diligence properly and understanding that, like, just because you don't think you damaged people doesn't mean you didn't. You might have blocked them and you thought, oh, like, look, I got out. I didn't further engage in this. But it's like we don't know what kind of scar that leaves on people. We don't know like how that leaves their impression, how they move around the world. Them like now never saying the truth to maintain their reality by lying. It's like maybe like a certain victim is like, hey, I'm being like physically assaulted, but everything else is good. If I say what's going on, it's all going to change. That could be an outcome of one of the victims. That it's like, oh, he blocked me once I told him the truth. If I tell this other person the truth, they're going to take it all away. So now it's like you've damaged this person moving forward, that you might not even be as aware or even wanting to care about it. I was like, I had conversations with him behind the scenes. I was like, I think you should work with certain organizations. I think you should go in person. Oh, but they're going to think that I'm only doing it because of this. You are doing it because of this. So go do it. Go talk to these organizations. Go talk to victims who have now gone 5 years later, 3 years later, 10 years later, and ask them how it affected them so that you know what it does to people. I don't feel like he handled it properly. And I told him that. So I had to take a certain distance of like, no, we can't be as like cool anymore. Yeah, like we can hang out from time to time. I don't want to share too much content of us sharing, like hanging out, because it's like I want to see if you're like growing as a person. I want to see if eventually you're going to come to a realization of like, I could have done more. I could have done more. So for me, it's like I'm disappointed in how people move, but I'm always hopeful that they'll learn and hopefully make amends to those people, to as many people as they possibly can. Because it's like, come on. Like, we know that some of those people lied for clout to get, like, oh, like, look, James DM'd me. I understand that some people were a little homophobic in their calling you out, kind of like Sarah Larson, where she's like, "Oh yeah, James was DMing my boyfriend." It's like a man can DM a grown man and ask them if they're single and tell them that they're cute. That's not an issue. That was never the issue. My issue was, why were you having these conversations with somebody that young and not doing your due diligence? Because the way, yeah, you could be inappropriate with people in the way DMs. You're like, "Oh my god, you're so hot. Send me armpit pics," and the exchanging of inappropriate photos within two consenting adults. None of my business. None of my business. Um, it was the issue where there was an imbalance. And even some of those people that are consenting adults are still an imbalance. You're making X amount of money and you're living your life. And you see this celebrity, hey, you're hot. Oh, hey, you're hot too. You should send me pics. Even if they're an adult, there is an imbalance there that they feel like they have to comply to. If not, this good thing is being taken away. In the same way that Diddy created victims, he would be like, "Oh yeah, like, I mean, I'm Diddy. I'm a music producer. You want to make music? Let me see. Sing for me. Wow, you're such a good singer. You should come hang out with me. Here, have this drink." no, 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 I'm not really into alcohol. No, 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 you should take it. Come on, I'm Diddy. How many times do you get to have a drink with a billionaire? I saw that in the lawsuit where he told people that. And it makes people more willing to do things that they're not willing to do. So, as somebody who let something happen because of power imbalance, I can understand these victims, and it's like, I don't feel like you handled it properly. I think there's still opportunity for him to do it, and we don't have to forgive him in any capacity. It's for those victims to forgive if they want to. If they never want to, who am I to tell them they have to? If they never want to talk to him, they never want anything from him, that's solely up to them. Absolutely. And I agree with it and I support it. Because who
I
am I
think
to tell somebody?
I think one of the most important things you were saying was the lasting impact of abuse on someone and how it doesn't really go away. It haunts you
Mhm.
and it just stays there. And the abuser may not realize that lasting impact of that abuse. Oh, well, I block them and it's like out of sight, out of mind for the abuser. But the person who was abused, that may stay with them the rest of their lives. And that point that you made, I think is so, so important for people to understand that have never been through something like that. Thank you for sharing that piece because I think that that's really, really important. One thing that I've learned about you, Gabriel, is that you have such a good heart. You're spicy and you're fun and you've got a good personality and you're quick-witted. But I think the biggest thing that I want people to know about you is how big your heart is and how you would do anything to help someone that you care about. And this is just another example of how big your heart is. And I know that you've already made an impact on so many lives and that you'll continue to do that. And that you'll find a way to help people through this terrible thing that was done to you. I know that you will because you have that inside of you. It's always been there. It's always been there before and it's still there. And that person can't take that away from you. They can't take your heart from you. I'm just, I've always rooted for you. You know that from the very beginning. And now I feel like I'm rooting for you 10 times harder than I ever have because I know how much, how special you are. I've always known how special you are. I've always seen it. And I know you're going to do great things, whatever you choose to do, whatever that is, whether it's in the beauty space or whether it's somewhere else. Whatever you choose, you're going to do amazing things. And I believe that with my entire soul. I genuinely do. And I'm not just saying that because we're here and we're doing this. I'm just so thankful to be able to have this conversation with you about all of these things. And it's kind of hard to know how to even talk about anything else after talking about something so serious. You know, it's devastating what happened to you. Um, do you have, talking to your therapist and having gone through this, do you have any plans or any things that you want to do as far as helping other victims? Like, is that something that you've thought about?
I've always wanted to just talk about it because I've only talked about it with one friend. And there's so many friends, like really close friends, that know nothing, absolutely nothing, not even an idea. And I think that was scary. It was like, it's just even like the idea that like my friends were gonna find out and be like, why didn't you tell me? Or like, I would have done this, I would have done that. And it's like, no, it's like processing how like conversations now move forward. I think I didn't even think I was gonna talk about it on this. So I just appreciate you making such like a safe space because I didn't know that like I would be just able to talk about it. Like to me right now, I just feel like I'm only looking at you. Like sometimes I'll get like I'll look at myself, but I'm like, I'm just looking at you and I'm like, my God, like I think you like, I really appreciate that you made it easy because since me and you aren't that close, I felt like you didn't have like this long real personal connection where it's like, where you're gonna question, wait, so this was going on? So were you sat here, like all these things, like there were certain friends where I'm like, damn, are they gonna be like, so were you just lying? Like, were you? And so I think you just made it really safe for me to be able to be like, hey, I can tell someone. It's almost like when you tell your therapist things that you can't even tell your friends or partner, because it's like, you don't almost know me, but you kind of know me. And I can almost share it with almost less judgment. Not saying that like my loved ones or my friends are going to judge me. It's just that fear in the head of like, oh, like I didn't want them to. And sometimes I have created caveats in my life where I give space for negativity, for the possibility of negativity and the expectation of it, of like hoping for the best but expecting the worst. I've always had that mentality, and it's been such like a almost to an extent toxic to think of everything as that, because not every, if you constantly are preparing yourself for like such bad things when you know it's not going to happen, but you're preparing yourself for it, it's like a level of anxiety that like almost prevents you from even having a conversation.
Right. Yeah, and people that know you that would say to you, "Why didn't you share this with me?" I feel like they need to give you a little bit of grace, and this is just my opinion, that when you're going through something like that, you have to do what you have to do to mentally survive. And sometimes that means not sharing, and it's not personal against that person. It's just you're just trying to make it through. And I hope that they give you grace. I hope that they understand and just give you a hug and tell you that they care about you. And I hope that that's the extent of it. You
I know they
know,
will. I
yeah.
think it took time even in therapy to understand that. As I would talk to my therapist, I'm like, but what if this? What if that? What if this? What if that? It's like there's so many what ifs that you're scaring yourself from even having these conversations. Like, do these people love you? Yes. Do these people care about you? Yes. Have you had them for a long period of time in your life? Yes. So sometimes we think that because we know somebody so well, we just assume what their response is going to be, as opposed to giving them the opportunity to actually respond for themselves. And we like mess up by thinking, oh, we know what they're going to say. I know them so well. They're my best friend, they're my partner, they're my family, they're this. I know what they're going to say. And sometimes we don't give people the opportunity to actually show us that they're not going to do that. They're actually going to go above and beyond. And I think that was always the scary part, because I was like, I don't want people to lose respect for me. I don't want people to think I'm a victim. I don't want people to think I'm vulnerable and weak. Like I'd rather people be scared of me. It's that notion is like, because it's like, maybe if you fear me, like it won't happen to me again. Or if you fear me, you won't think of me as like a victim. And maybe I don't have to tell people, and I'd rather people be scared of me than like think that they can like do something like that to me.
It sounds like you have some really wonderful people around you though, that you seem like you already know that they're going to be kind to you.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that you have those people in your life that will be able to support you and support you even more now, knowing what happened, and that it still is there, that it has not gone away after all these years. It's still there, and that they can now support you in that. I know that they'll want to support you because I am 100% sure you've supported them, and that they'll take it as an honor to be able to support you the way that you've done for them.
Yeah.
And through this whole conversation, we've talked about the many times you've supported people that you've cared about, whether it's been reciprocated or not, whether someone's given it back to you or not. You have done so much to try to help people and to care for them and to be there for them, even when maybe they didn't deserve it. And I hope that you get that back tenfold, genuinely.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I This truth has been so important that you shared today, and I know that there are other people that are going to resonate with it, and you're helping people already just by sharing that story, because there are gonna be people that are going to now have strength to be able to maybe share a story that they need to share, because you've been brave enough to share your story. And I know that they would want to tell you thank you. So I'm going to tell you thank you for them, for that. I know that a lot of people that are watching this are going to want to find you, to follow you and see how you're doing, and to be a part of your journey and to see what you're creating and what you're doing. I'm not sure, are you still wanting to pursue social media? Is that something that you are? Yes. Okay.
I definitely took a break on YouTube, but I'm definitely coming back, and I have been always contemplating, like, do I just upload a video and act like nothing happened? Like, how do I address this with them? But how do I also tell them about my situation? It's like, how do I tell them, oh, I took a break for a year? Okay. Why, Gabriel? Well, I'm not ready to talk about it. So it just felt like disingenuous of like, how do I upload content? But I feel like this year and even part of last year, it really was like, I think that is going to be probably my first upload back, just speaking as to why I took the break, the things that I did during that break, my gratitude in my ability to still maintain a social presence from my followers and being able to engage with me, still getting sponsorships on other platforms. I definitely like left money on the table by not uploading so consistently, but I'm happy where my mind is now, that I don't care for that money, because I feel like coming from no money, it's like it comes and it goes. But like love and especially mental health is something that like you can't really just say pick money over. You can't. Like you're gonna realize that it's going to leave you. Money will leave you. But it's the people you love, the way you love yourself, and your own prioritization of your own mental health that matters, so that you could be your best self for you and for everybody around you, from your family to your friends to your partner to your followers to your coworkers to strangers on the street. Like, if you don't prioritize yourself, you're not going to be the best version of yourself. And I feel like this year has really like helped me, and I definitely feel more ready to have this conversation. I don't know if it'll be in like a month, or maybe it'll be at the end of the year, maybe it'll be like the first upload back in 2025, but it is definitely the first conversation I want to have with like my audience of like, this is why I've been gone and this is what I've learned, and I want to share it so that I can explain it to y'all, or if anybody else is going through anything, or hopefully y'all never go through it, but if you do, you have a reference point of somebody who did, that can like walk you through it.
Yeah. And I hope that you don't put pressure on yourself to upload at any specific time or at any specific frequency or any specific anything. I hope that you do whatever socials you want to do at your pace, at your frequency, because it's, in the end, it's all about you, you know? And I think your audience, your core people will understand that, and they'll appreciate it when they do get to see you. And you know, that you were even saying earlier, the myth of having to upload on a specific schedule, you know,
Yeah.
that you have to do this and you have to do that. And that really is a myth. And I think that when you do decide to spend time with people that care about you from afar, your parasocial people that adore you, I think that they'll just love you no matter what, whenever you decide that you want to show up, because you've shown them love. You've brought them joy,
Yeah.
you know? Hi, everyone. Bye,
Hi.
everyone. People look forward to that. That's why people, they hear that and they know that that's you, because
Yeah.
they know it brings them joy when they hear you say it, because it feels familiar. It feels safe. I
Yeah.
know what I'm going to watch when I hear, hi, everyone. I know exactly what I'm going to get, and I know I'm going to have fun.
Yeah.
And they're going to be ready for that whenever you choose to come back. But it has to be when you're ready and when you want to do it on no one else's schedule but yours,
Yeah.
you know? And you've got this. You have got this. You have got this. I know you do.
Thank you.
You are
I
absolutely brilliant. You really are. You know, when you really speak on something you know about, you are brilliant. And when you bring that to the camera, everybody's going to see that. And everybody that has seen it knows it, but your new audience that is yet to find you, they're going to see it too.
Thank you.
So I just absolutely adore you, Gabriel. And I just want to thank you so much for coming on and spending time with me.
Thank you for having me. I
Abs-
really appreciate it. I was like thinking we were just gonna gossip about Dramageddon. That's why
I
I was like,
thought so too.
Jen loves it. I want to have a conversation with somebody who like loves the drama.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was gonna get this deep, but I appreciate the space you've made because I have throughout the years, maybe not every upload, but I have watched uploads and I have kept up and I've always appreciated your conversation and the things you add to the beauty community. Whether it be from just the new launches and what's up in makeup to actually now holding people accountable based off of their actions and letting your audience know, be like, hey, look, I can do the research not only on makeup, but also on people within the space. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you too. Well, I'm sure we will be in touch and I will be watching and I will be following your journey and I'll be cheering you on the whole time. We'll all be cheering you on.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.